In this screencast, we're going to have a bit of a look at cells, and cells are the basic units of life. All living things are made of cells. Plants, animals, fungi, anything that lives is made of these little building blocks called cells. And we're going to have a look at the structures that make up these cells, and those structures we call organelles. So we're going to have a look at organelles like the nucleus, the cell wall, cell membrane, the chloroplast, and learn what some of these organelles do. Now, some people compare cells to being like little factories with little things, little structures to do particular jobs, and they compare it and say, well, in the cell, the organelles all have specific jobs and functions to play. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a tour of the cell, and we'll have a bit of a look at these in a bit more detail. Here we go. Okay, so let's start by having a look at this animal cell here. The first structure we'll look at is this boundary around the outside, and that's called the cell membrane. It controls all the substances that go in and out of the cell. So it's basically the fence around the cell. The fluid here in the middle, where all the chemical reactions might happen, that's called the cytoplasm. This structure right here in the middle is the control center that controls all the functioning in the cell, and that's called the nucleus. Now, they're the main structures that you'll have to know for the animal cell, but let's have a look at things a little bit further. This is a more detailed view of an animal cell, and again you can see the cell membrane around the outside, the nucleus in the middle, and this fluid, but we can also see a whole lot of other structures. These won't be visible under the light microscope, but the structures called organelles. We have a couple here, all with specific jobs. These ones here are called mitochondria, and they supply all the energy to the cell, and these are endoplasmic reticulum with little ribosomes. Specific functions that these make all the substances that the cells produce. When we're looking at cells, it's probably important to also consider that it's a three-dimensional object. Quite often we represent it as a two-dimensional sort of image, but they're actually three-dimensional. But let's just focus on what you guys need to know, and that is cell membrane, cytoplasm, and nucleus. Now let's move from this typical animal cell, and let's have a look at what a typical plant cell might look like. And we can identify a few of the familiar structures in a plant cell: the nucleus, the cell membrane, and the cytoplasm. What we also see in a plant cell is a much more solid structure around the outside to give it support, and that's called the cell wall. We also have some green structures that contain a substance called chlorophyll. And these structures are called chloroplasts, and they're involved in photosynthesis. And photosynthesis is how the plant produces its energy. Plant cells also quite often have a large vacuole. Animal cells can have small vacuoles, but never usually to the size that a plant cell would have one. So the differences that we have in a plant cell are the chloroplasts, the cell wall, and the large vacuole. And looking at some more detailed diagrams of a plant cell, we can see the nucleus in the middle here. We can see the cell membrane, the cell wall. These structures here are the chloroplasts, and a few of the organelles that we saw in the animal cell as well, the mitochondria and the endoplasmic reticulum. Another version of a plant cell here, again, looking at those structures just in a plant cell, that solid cell wall around the outside, the chloroplasts here, those green structures, and this large vacuole. And they're the sorts of things that make it a plant cell. Again, remembering that we're looking at two-dimensional images of what really is a three-dimensional picture. So just to finish on focusing on the things that you guys need to know, the organelles and the structures that you guys need to know: the nucleus, which is that control center; the cytoplasm, that fluid in the cell; the cell membrane, controlling the substances in and out; and then a few things specifically for plant cells: the chloroplasts for photosynthesis to produce energy, the cell wall to give the plant cell support, and this large vacuole that goes and takes up a large part of the cell for some storage. Okay, hopefully that's helped with your understanding of cells and given you a good idea of the job that some of these organelles do. So good luck with studying cells.